even when I went to New York City, even when I moved to the Bay, even when I was in Boston, even now in Vegas, there aren't that many Taiwanese spots, and I want Taiwanese cuisine to be like much higher on the list. So like when you go out to dinner, it's not just, oh, I want Korean, Japanese, Chinese. Like I want Taiwanese to be at least in the conversation. My name's Derek. I'm the founder of Little Dings, which is a Taiwanese street food startup here in Vegas. I've always wanted to do food. So ever since I was in middle school, my cousins came over. So all my family's in Taiwan, right? So my cousins and uncles came to visit me in New York sometime when I was in middle school. And we were just walking around, we saw halal cars, we saw like hot dog cars, fried chicken cars, but we didn't see anything like Taiwanese related, and we knew that Taiwanese food would be good. So that was when the idea kind of got planted into my head as like, ooh, like this is actually something that I would want to start down the line. But looking back at it, like I didn't think too much of it. I wasn't like, oh, like this is what I'm gonna be doing or anything like that. But throughout college, I started getting more into cooking. So I got better and better at cooking, and I started working on the Taiwanese recipes, so Taiwanese popcorn chicken and braised pork over rice, which is what we have here today. And I started working on those in college, and then that idea that I had back in middle school became a little bit more serious, but it was an idea that I was going to bring into life, like bring out maybe in my 30s when I had a little bit more experience, a little bit more like real world knowledge and business knowledge. But last year, around this time, actually, one of my friends was like, well, why not just do it in 4 months? And realistically, in my head, I was like, that's pretty crazy. But that also got me really excited. So I was like, okay, like how can I make this happen in 4 months? So last year, March, was when the idea kind of kicked off. March, I started going through business plans, started formulating like what I would need, budgeting and all of that. And then also like health regulations, what I needed to keep in mind for making sure that I was compliant with the health district, and what I needed to do to go on one of 3 paths. One is do like events and catering, 2 is open a brick and mortar, 3 is food truck, right? So there was a lot of different options for me, but I chose the one that cost the least amount of capital to start with, because I don't have access to a lot of capital. So this is essentially what I started with, because the initial down payment for like all the equipment, a few thousand, it's not too much, as opposed to like a food truck, which you need to take a loan for, and then it's $60K, and then brick and mortar, if it's turnkey, it's like 100, but if you're talking about like building out a new space, it's like 300. So just looking at those numbers, I was like, okay, let's do something like kind of scuff. And then that's how we kind of ended up applying for our first event, which was last October. So it's only been like 7 months, and we've been going crazy recently. But last October, we applied for the event. The event organizers thought we were kind of like a joke application, like a scam application, until like they called me on the phone, and I kind of let them know that I was really working on something, and I had something, but I actually didn't. All I had was a recipe, so I didn't have anything, right? But that was kind of how we got started there. I've been working on like putting out a weekly blog to kind of walk through our journey from the beginning to now. But overall, this all started from a dream back when I was in middle school. The sort of business experiences that I took from my past and brought into Little Dings was a mixture of a lot of different things. So I started when I was either, I think, 19, 20, and I started with like a network marketing agency called World Financial Group, WFG. So that was where I kind of got introduced into business and sales, not so much like building your own business, entrepreneurship, and like creating something from scratch. But that was my start, where I was able to learn how to like kind of prospect, kind of how to do sales better. So it was brutal, by the way, because when I was 19, 20, nobody wanted to listen to me, and I also wasn't in the right mind, so I probably lost a lot of friends along the way. But it taught me a lot about what people are motivated by, and what their kind of goals and aspirations are, and how that ties into what my product is or was to serve them. So I haven't had like a direct mentor, but I've had a lot of mentors, and a lot of my mentors are friends, and a lot of my friends are not so much like mentors, but just people that I look up to. And so when I look up to people, I'm very observant. So when there's someone that I look up to, I just observe their actions. And you would think that, oh, if you have friends that are in different industries or different spaces, it'd be harder to learn from. But actually, I think that's what makes it easier to learn from, because they see things differently than you see it. So there's a different perspective or a different way of looking at things that you can take away from what you're doing. Like what you're doing is, like, let's say I'm doing little things, I'm just doing food. Like, this is my path, right? Food. But let's say someone comes in from fitness and I'm like, okay, like how is he doing his coaching calls? How is he inspiring his team? Or how is he running his team? Then I can maybe take some of that and put it into what I'm doing in the food and make it more than just food itself, but also help develop my team, help grow them as individuals, not just like grow the business as a whole. And small things like that. So mentorship, no direct mentorship, but a lot of mentorship in just being around the right people and surrounding myself with the right people, and then observing what they do and then kind of copying, replicating them in my own style. So Crocs are the go-to footwear for us because it's just it's a little bit quirky. I like to be different, but also like they're just very comfortable. They're comfortable, easy to slip on, slip off if you need to. But there's also a lot of times where a lot of these markets have small shoe charms and Croc charm stores, and we always like buy a few charms at these markets and we stick it on right then and there. So Crocs is like something that you can customize, so it kind of speaks to your personality, and then also it's just a little bit fun, a little bit like you get to, it makes us stand out. Not necessarily like, oh, look at us, like we're wearing Crocs, but like in a way where we can be like, we're adding an extra layer of fun that a lot of people don't. Because I like to, as much as these events are very, very serious, I like to have, my team likes to have a lot of fun doing these events. Incorporating food into dance, I think there's a lot of things in food, action-wise, that you can take inspiration from. Because I'm a freestyle dancer, I do popping and I do waving. When it comes to freestyling, it's really about like an extension / expression of yourself. So when it comes to dancing and freestyle dancing, I think with food, you're telling a story with your freestyle, and whether that be who you are as a person or kind of your experiences as a whole. So I think that kind of actually brings in the food aspect, because if little things for me is part of who I am, is part of me, then that will come out inherently in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how, because it's been a long time since I've actually gotten to train dance at all, just because it's every week / every other week is another event. So it's 4 or 5, sometimes 6 days a week where we're just prepping and going at it. There's more risk in giving up an opportunity to do something that you truly feel is your calling, or is truly calling out to you, than it is to go out, try it, and just fall flat on your face, like fail completely. Because at least you tried and you can take away the lessons from it. But if you don't even try, then you're always going to be stuck there wondering whether or not it would have worked. What if everything turned out amazing? A lot of times we like to consider the negative what ifs, but what about all the positive what ifs? Like, you can't just limit yourself to what if this fails, what if everything goes wrong, what if I lose all my money? Because on the other side of that is, what if everything goes amazing? What if this is like my dream comes true? What if I make a shit ton of money? And more often than not, you're gonna fall somewhere in the middle. So there's not like it's really hard for you to fall all the way on one side or the other, unless you have a lot of experience and you really know what you're doing, but you just haven't done your new thing yet, and then in which case you might do really well. But if you're starting out from scratch, as long as you've done some sort of preparation, read up on some of the information, called some people or talked to some people who are in the space, you'll do fine. You'll land somewhere in the middle. So the what ifs, I would say, like, for anyone who's trying to do something new or going out to you always had this idea or this kind of feeling to go out and try something, at least try it, right? And there's debate on like trying. If you try, you're not giving your 100%, so you might not succeed in the way that you want to because you're not giving it your all. But honestly, as long as you're doing something and you take action towards your goal, that's much better than sitting on your ass and wondering whether or not it would have turned into something if you had. Website, social media, littlethingscafe.com. Little Things Cafe, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find us on Medium, which is the blog site that we post all of our blogs on. Medium.com, we're also under Little Things.